My goddarn dog smells like somebody put goddarn turds in the microwave. Let me tell you, he needs a bath. You ever working in an office and somebody microwaves like a KFC bucket of turds for lunch and it just stinks up the whole office?
I have.
Yeah, famous. Like there's a stereotype of bringing fish leftovers.
Yeah, the fish especially.
They always do it too, and
My recommendation this week is if you bring fish leftovers to work, it's on you to eat it cold.
Yeah, you got to eat it cold and in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Ba-do-do-do-do.
All hissing.
Eat your cold fish in the dark tonight on CBS.
Monk's Bagel asks, what's the first video game thing you searched when given access to the internet as a kid? This is episode 351 of the Insert Credit Audio Magazine, and
confusing.
This one's a deep dirtbag dive. I'm Alex Jaffe, and for me it was how to catch Peekaboo, the hoax god Pokemon that didn't actually exist.
Interesting.
And I literally just told this story yesterday. My name's Frank Cifaldi, and at the time I didn't have the internet, but a friend of mine did. Brandon, you know him, Nick. And I could use his computer and look at the internet basically when he was sleeping was like the time that I could use the internet. And I had just rented Phantasy Star 4 for the Genesis because I wasn't no PlayStation kid. I had the old stuff and got really into it. It was an RPG. And I was just kind of searching for how to unstuck myself from my rental game. That is when I discovered a fan site that had them ROMs on it. And I was like, what? And I downloaded Phantasy Star 1 because it was like, you could play it on your computer. It's like, I want to see what the first one's like. And I double clicked it and Windows was like, I don't know what this is.
And that was the start of your game preservation journey.
Yeah. After I deleted that file.
Frank cracked his knuckles and became an elite hacker.
Yeah.
Franklin Kenneth Stein, the name he went by.
By not reading the fine print on the website that explained what an emulator is and how you had to use it.
Right.
That was in the Nesticle era.
It was. Yeah.
I remember Nesticle.
What an embarrassing time to be alive.
Yeah, that weird hairy nutsack was like the goddarn icon.
My interview yesterday was about someone working on a book about emulators. And yes, I had an extensive conversation in person with a human about Nesticle yesterday.
And the bloody hand is the as your mouse pointer.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I saw Destiny at McDonald's yesterday, or I saw Destiny yesterday at McDonald's. That's a line from True Detective season.
Well, I saw Destiny's Child, so...
I saw Destiny yesterday at McDonald's, and Frank had a conversation about the testicle yesterday. So we're all
having fun with words over
having
here.
a good time here. So wait, does the question concern Googling something about a video game for
the first time you got the internet?
Yeah, first time you had access to the internet, what was the first video game thing you looked up?
The first video game thing I looked up?
You searched.
Yeah, I mean, when was your Phantasy Star 4 rental experience, Frank?
I think this would have been 97.
Oh, okay. So, I'm Tim Rogers, and my first time using the internet didn't goddamn look up nothing. There wasn't nodes. There wasn't, there was not a search engine. But I encountered websites about Dragon Quest and about Akira Toriyama art in general in 1996. Around Chrono Trigger, the time of Chrono Trigger's had completely saturated into the gamosphere. It took Chrono Trigger about a year to become just a game that was as big as it is now, I guess, as immersed, as absorbed as it is now. But the first thing I specifically went looking for was I wanted to know how to kill Ruby Weapon in Final Fantasy VII. And I went to a website called Imagine Games Network,
nice.
IGN. And I ended up beginning a sort of an email friendship with a person who wrote there, a writer by the name of Francesca Reyes, who used to write for Ultra Game Players. And we're still social media mutual followers and friends to this day. And if she's listening to this episode of the podcast, hey, how you doing? So there you have it.
What's up?
Yeah, and we discussed strategies together and defeated Ruby Weapon. So
congratulations. Better than I did with Peekaboo.
there was yet no consensus on how perfectly to defeat Ruby Weapon at that exact point in time. So neat, huh?
Pretty neat.
I'm Brandon Sheffield, and I can't remember what my first year of high school was. It was 95 or 96. Whenever that one was when I got the internet for the first time because I didn't have it at home. So the first video game thing I encountered searching was probably, I think the first thing I searched was for Sailor Moon. Just like looking up things about Sailor Moon, and I found out that there was a Super Famicom video game of Sailor Moon. I was like, oh, you can make video games of things I like from other properties? I had no idea about this. It just hadn't occurred to me that you could make a Sailor Moon video game. But the first video game thing I actually looked up that I can remember, because I think I probably looked at some FAQs and things, but the first thing I can actually remember in my brain is when's Panzer Dragoon Saga coming out? I guess that would have been mid 98, because there was worry that it wasn't going to come out in the United States because the Saturn was just going to disappear and everything was going to be gone. And I remember finding, I think it was Saturn World, which I had started reading. They were like, our website's closing down, but before we go, we got to tell you, Panzer Dragoon Saga is the best game of all time. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. The game's great. All the new games that are coming out for the Saturn, they're going to come out after our website's closed, but they're great. They're all great.
The website of us, people who are professional opinion havers, is being shut down for some reason.
Yes.
Trust our opinion as we leave.
Yes.
Is a pretty good one. I just need to clarify, first of all, that I looked at the internet and I read stuff about video games, but I just went to websites that were advertised in magazines. I went to nuke.com. I went to videogames.com, right? Like I read all those, but I don't consider that looking. The phraseology of the question involved looking up, like specifically looking for something.
Whoops.
And first time I specifically looked for something was how to beat Ruby Weapon. I was all about no guides, no secrets, no tricks in my video game enjoyment. But I mean, I'd of course read all the GIAs and such of the era. Like I read those because I encountered them, and word of mouth occasionally from game players in my sphere.
All of those old ads for websites when the internet was young always had this disclaimer to ask your parents before going online. And I would do that every single time. Before I went to the internet. Hey, Mom, can I go on America Online?
Shoot.
Yeah.
So America Online was how I found a couple of, how I encountered some stuff. It's because there's like a chat room that's just called Video Games.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Good old
I poked my head in there. Here's our first question from our Dirtbag episode. MVB asks, can a sports game be good enough to get gamers into the real sport?
Ooh.
Gran Turismo got lots of people into driving cars, thinking about cars, looking at cars.
Yeah.
And cars as a sport, don't let anybody tell you different. Cars as a sport, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cars as a motorsport is a sport. I mean, there's the famous story.
If like shooting a pistol at the Olympics is a sport, then driving a car is a sport. It's a tool.
Exactly. They're talking about bringing F1 to the Olympics now too, right? So Call of Duty's a real life version of Call of Duty is already a sport at the Olympics, shooting a pistol. Call of Duty is a game about firing pistols at people, in case you didn't know that.
Yeah.
They have other guns too. Some of which are more popular than the pistols. But
I think the question is, the answer is just a resounding yes. Like, I'm watching, as we're recording this, the Olympics are happening. I'm watching the Olympics. I watch some weird events and I'm like, this looks interesting. Like, if I were young and had room for a new hobby, like I might be interested in shooting that crossbow or something,
Yeah. Unfortunately, you had to start when you were 5.
Yeah. That's fair. If you want to be an Olympic level athlete, sure. But.
The world is already full of stories of people who literally played Gran Turismo and then decided they were pretty good at cars. They played it on a sim setup, decided they were really good at cars, went to a driving school where they had a competitive edge already. There's the movie that's a dramatization of the story of a kid who did just that. It is renowned that Lewis Hamilton's 7-time F1 champion played Gran Turismo. He actually played Super Monaco GP on Sega Mega Drive as a child. You can see a video of him playing it on YouTube if you're interested in that. He's a Mega driver. He's a super driver as well. If you've been watching the past couple of weeks of racing, he got first place, which is good for him twice now in the past couple of weeks. But yeah, that happens a lot. There are coaches working in the NFL right now who will testify that they got into football, like thinking seriously about football, straight up because of Madden.
Yeah.
Like flat out, no joke, because of Madden. Like Madden taught them to think about football in a way that maybe some of their friends who were playing football at the time or that were on football teams with them weren't. And now they're NFL coaches, right? Like, so it 100% is the thing.
I would also say, since this is get into, not necessarily play, I believe it's fully possible, because I've talked on here about how I watched that anime Haikyuu, and I learned so much that I watched a real volleyball game and knew all the rules and spotted like referee bad calls and stuff, because the anime just passively taught me how volleyball works to where I understood it enough to have opinions and enjoy watching a live game and be able to follow everything that was happening. I think that's pretty neat. So a video game ought to be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think a more interesting sort of a sub question is like, what could sports games do to get people more interested in the real sport? I feel like the NBA 2K Dynasty mode, where you get to make players and watch seasons play out, it's like so close to being something that anyone can play and think basketball rules. It's like so close. I mean, these days, what does it really mean to seriously get into a sport? 9 times out of 10, it means 99 times out of 100, it means open up a FanDuel account and start betting, I guess, is what it means now.
I know.
Isn't it weird that sports betting has just kind of taken over sports spectating in the last 10
that's just what
years
being
or
a
so?
sports fan is now.
It's certainly
Gambling.
bad, in my opinion.
Being a sports fan is all about putting dollars on the table.
I feel like NBA Jam got some people into the NBA, even though not into the NBA, got them into watching basketball, even though it's, or perhaps because it's exaggerated and not accurate.
Yeah, I'm sure that did happen. For me, it was hard because I was a big time basketball fan at the time that like NBA Jam came out, and I got into NBA Jam because of basketball. I mean, NBA Jam in the arcade to me was like, that was like my Street Fighter almost. It was like, oh, I'm going to play this. This is immediately more interesting to me than a fighting game. And of course, that whole NBA Jam as an esport as a meat space esport kind of died pretty quick. Unfortunately, it didn't survive as long as fighting games did. It's one thing I've always thought is there should still be really good sports games, 2-on-2 sports games.
Yeah, unfortunately, esports sucked all the air out of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, esports. Yeah, I think like NBA Jam is so perfectly positioned between esports and fighting games. It's so perfectly positioned between like a MOBA and a fighting game that there should be a niche.
All right.
Carl.
Next question. This one has literally been sitting in our inbox since the year 2020, and I've never asked it, but I might as well do it now. This one's from Matt, who asks, of Frank, Tim, and Brandon, who has cumulatively sold the largest value worth of other people's products through their various casual recommendations and endorsements?
Oh,
I don't know if anyone's ever taken Brandon up on any of his recommendations.
well, I get messages about him, and I get requests for more recommendations. So I think the answer is
Might actually be you. Yeah.
is yes. I think in aggregate, because they're not all obscure. Some of them aren't.
Well, and also just like in terms of quantity of like purchasable products, like it's Brandon by far.
Yeah, I recommended the most
given
things.
the most recommendations, so my bet would be on him.
Talking about on this show or
On
just
this show.
I did not say on the show.
Oh, well, that's different.
I have over 300 confirmed Steelcase gesture orders made because of my Cyberpunk video.
There you go.
That's a $1,200 chair, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's
that might have me beat already.
Yeah, I assumed it would be Tim. That's kind of why I didn't ask.
I'll even say this out loud. This is why if you do want an ad read on the show, and you send it to Alex Jaffe or whatever the email account is. This is the reason why I will not read an ad on this show. People ask me to read ads on this show quite frequently, and I don't know what to charge. And it's partially because I know how many Steelcase gesture chairs I sold, and I don't know what to do with that. So
I originally thought this question was going to be how many. Well, I don't know why it would have been the question, but that's where it seemed to be going. How many objects of another person's collection have you sold? And so the answer to that was Frank, because
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
coordinate the sale of estate sale type stuff.
Yeah, the answer to that question I didn't ask was Frank.
Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. It is. Yeah, I've done things like gone to people's houses that worked in the industry and been like, these are the ones you send to heritage auctions. So like I have been the cause of several thousands of dollars of used video games. No, sorry, usually new video games. Old stock being sold.
I guess I also got a handwritten letter from Yuji Horii, the creator of Dragon Quest, because of how many copies of Dragon Quest they theorized to have sold because of a video I did about Dragon Quest 11. So
wait, I got one.
I think that's
pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Not trying to describe myself as the Uber shill here, but it's not bad, right?
Yeah, what you got, Frank?
There was a time, we might have talked about it on the show at the time. I'd be kind of surprised if it didn't come up at all. But a big part of my life has been preserving, unreleased games, and I kind of made myself the NES guy because someone had to be. And there was a time.
Was this Satchin?
A few years ago, where
there was that too.
2 unreleased NES games came up on eBay at the same time, which is the first time ever that's happened. Just 2 undumped, unreleased games, and I had to kind of do the double-edged sword of posting publicly about it because I just could not raise enough money for one. For both. I could do one, but I couldn't do both.
I remember this.
Long story short, 2 investor types really liked my tweets and spent a combined, I believe, $60,000 on the 2 games. Well,
that's a pretty high dollar value there.
Yeah, I got one of them. I did technically dump the other one, but I can't do anything with the ROM.
That so sucks.
Yeah.
I want that ROM.
No, you don't.
I want all the ROMs.
It's just an English version of Napoleon Senki on the Famicom. That's all.
Who wants that on the Mister?
I need it. I just want.
You can read the Japanese, dude.
Food for my Mister. My Mister is hungry. My Mister wants more.
You know what was a shame about that one? It was the guy who produced the game at Bruderbund, and he was selling the only known copy of the game in English, but he also had the paste up paperwork that you would mail to Nintendo for printing. So he had the master physical files for the packaging and the manual and the label as well, which is really cool. And also there are no other known examples of those from the NES, just this one unreleased game.
Yeah, that's neat.
That owns so hard, man. Broderbund owns.
Oh, right, because that was the one you didn't get.
No, it was a crypto investor got all that. And
thank goodness! Thank goodness it's crypto, which is apparently.
Did he turn it into an NFT?
He put it into his closet, as far as I can tell. He tried to get me to valuate it. And I had to explain to him that as a nonprofit archive, that's not a thing I can legally do. And he didn't like that answer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he expected.
He wanted to have a treat for 3 seconds, and he wanted you to break the law so that he could have it, basically, right? That's how these crypto guys are.
I don't know what to do about that one. Anyway.
So I think Frank and Tim both have legitimate claims here.
Also,
And
I did
me.
work for some computer entertainment. That kind of counts as selling somebody else's products.
I'm throwing "you never know" in there.
You never know.
It is what it is.
Here's my next question. It's from Jack Thompson, not that one.
Okay.
What game would be most improved by a Sega Arcade-style announcer, and what would they say?
Any overly serious game, for sure. Like The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Headshot. Like that. Like the Super Monkey Ball guy.
Yeah, well, I don't want to bring him right roaring back in here, but any David Cage game. Look at that door open.
Oh.
Like when things are going bad in the David Cage games, you just hear the guy go, "Uh-oh."
Yeah. Oh, no.
That's pretty good.
What will happen next?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, that's just like a shtick. Somebody, I think that to inverse answer this question, that's just something somebody should do as their Twitch stream character.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we have enough 3-year-old anime girls and doctors who don't respect people or like whatever character. Like, let's get something a little more exciting. Let's have a guy just do a Sega arcade announcer voice while playing video games.
And you just have some random songs in there like Jason, 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 Jason.
Well, I was thinking when Jason gets hit by a car, it's like child lost.
Or no, he gets hit by a car and then it says, let's make some crazy money.
That's right. Yeah.
Killer revealed. Bill.
I think just also having the words time bonus, I imagine a guy going time bonus like all the time when I'm playing like every video game I play for like no reason.
Yeah.
Like shoot a guy in the foot while he's dead and then time bonus. I've been saying that in my head for like 25 years now. So I feel like that would be that would be good to do in any video game.
Yeah, just throw it in there.
Our next one is from Kory, who asks, what have you chosen to continue using in a video game, like a weapon or armor or a party member, despite it not being the optimal choice from a gameplay perspective, and why?
Oh man, good question.
In Final Fantasy 15, I stopped upgrading my equipment because
I was about to say in Final Fantasy 15, I just kept fighting people.
Yeah. It didn't really matter very much. And like all the stuff that you could buy at the store was worse than the weapon I got from like some Royal Edition DLC or whatever that just came with the game when you bought the whole thing. And so there just wasn't ever a reason to upgrade. It's not a very exciting answer, but it is true.
I got a fun one. We were talking about, I was talking about Phantasy Star earlier. And at the beginning of the game, you play as Alice, you witness your brother dying, and he hands you his knife on the way out. I carried that knife with me to the guy who killed my brother at the very end of the game, and tried to stab him with it, and gave up on that idea quickly, but it was a fun idea.
Yeah,
that actually reminds me of another one that worked for me, which was Call of Duty Vanguard, which apparently everybody hates, but I liked. And there's a story segment where you're playing as like a Polish lady. It's World War II. Your father's rifle is what you have. Your father gets killed. Most of your family gets killed, and you got to go get them Nazis. And the first weapon you're given is your father's like single one at a time chamber rifle, and it felt right. You got access to all kinds of other weapons, but it felt right to keep going through it using just that weapon all the way to the end. Mm-hmm. And it was doable and it worked and it felt good to do. And it actually made me like that weapon more because I would usually have just discarded it in favor of something with a rapid fire situation. So I liked that one.
I used spears in Dark Souls even when it was like really, really clear that you should be just attacking people with swords, and you shouldn't be using a shield. I liked playing with a spear and a shield because it feels like a different video game, and it feels like if you balanced a video game around the idea of having a little shield and being able to stab people in like a different way while you're holding the shield up, but it just it makes the game less fun and way less interesting, and it also makes you kind of weak, and it makes the game look stupid. But for some reason, I did it for a very long time. The first time I played Dark Souls. So
speaking of kind of stupid,
yeah,
another Final Fantasy 15 one. There was better armor that you could have, but once I had the mariachi outfit and the big mariachi hat, it was like clipping into things and making every cutscene where they're like crying and stuff a lot funnier. I couldn't.
That's everyone loves that sort of thing, huh?
I couldn't get rid of that mariachi outfit. But I grew somehow attached to it beyond the goofiness of it. And once I like tried to not have him have a hat anymore, I was like, I lost my guy. I lost my fella's gone.
I gotta say, in both Red Dead Redemptions, I kept my starting horse way too long.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard not to get attached to that horse, though.
Yeah.
It's a horse.
Horses are kind of sick, though, now that you think
Even
about
though
it.
it's a digital horse.
Horses are kind of, they're motorcycles made out of meat.
I think I stabled the horse ultimately and probably kept it for the whole game, but
I did that in Zelda.
Man, keeping the horse the whole game in Red Dead Redemption 2 is a very rewarding experience for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
If you've played all of Red Dead Redemption 2, you know what I'm talking about.
I did a Symphony of the Night playthrough where I just used like Knuckles' weapon, where
Oh, that
I just
sucks.
punched Dracula.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Get those Chaos Emeralds.
That's like the ultimate example of something that like I can understand why you or someone would do that, but that definitely makes the game worse.
Yeah, it was.
Right?
It wasn't
Like,
as good, but I did it anyway.
Yeah, I watched a speed run of a guy beating Dracula in one of the GBA games
Mm-hmm.
with just the default punch that like nothing equipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took so long that he sped it up and added Initial D Eurobeat music to it. That was entertaining to me. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I probably didn't make it the whole way through, but I tried it. Anyway,
Yeah. You got to have a weapon in there.
next question. This one is from Malcove, who asks, what type of a video game would The Princess Bride be?
Probably a pretty good one.
It'd be an NES platformer, given the era.
yeah. Are you the sword guy?
I think you're the sword guy.
I mean, you'd be Prince Wesley, the main
Yeah,
guy.
you'd be Prince Wesley
He
for
has a
sure.
sword.
Oh, or is it one of those like I don't know, little Samson likes where you switch?
Could be.
You can be Andre the Giant. You can be Inigo Montoya,
Inigo
or
Montoya.
you can be Wesley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, switch between them. Lost Vikings. There you go.
I want to say I wasn't pretending like I don't know the names. I actually don't know the names.
They would have. Oh, I wasn't accusing you of pretending. They would
I just want
have.
to say that I think that's a cool movie, and I'm not like, oh yeah, sword guy.
They would have invented. The Lost Vikings. Like
I prefer more of a Euphoria or a Little Samson where you switch between the characters to get past different parts.
A fun way to do it would be a Valhalla or other bartending simulator, like where you play as oh god, I can't remember the actors' names, but the arguing couple with the healing medicines.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Billy Crystal's one of them.
Billy Crystal is one of them, and the other one is that lady,
I could name the other one if you'd like.
that funny lady who's funny,
Yeah.
and has that voice. But be them and put like just be healing people with different poultices and potions and giant orbs that you stick into people's mouths, and you got your mostly dead, you got your kind of dead, etc., all that kind of stuff, and just have a rotating cast of people coming through, and you're fixing their ailments, and you learn their story over time, and you can still get all your regular Princess Bridiness in there, but you can expand it some more.
First of all, I've been thinking for years that the Princess Bride is like by default like the perfect movie to remake, because you could get Fred Savage back as a dad or a grandfather telling the story again.
Oh, yeah.
90% of the appeal of the film The Princess Bride, for me personally, is listening to the dialogue and hearing the parts where sometimes mid-line a character is being read from a non-existent book, and then suddenly their voice and vocabulary and word choice is changed to Peter Falk Columbo, the grandfather's word choice, to just quickly get through a dialogue. And it's really seamless and interesting.
Yeah, I wonder if there are other people. I think, Tim, you are definitely not one. I wonder if there are other people for whom they forget about the framing story nearly every time they watch that movie, and then are like, oh yeah, it's a grandfather reading the thing.
I pity those people. Because I feel like you could do this like so well. Like you could have Fred Savage reading the book to his daughter or whatever, and she's like, well, what does the main guy look like? Does he look like and then she's like, oh, he's a strong man, he looks like Henry Cavill. And then she's like, why doesn't he look like Timothy Chalamet? And then it changes to Timothy Chalamet for 2 seconds, right? Like it's the perfect movie for that. And as a video game, you would have grandpa applying roguelike modifiers based on the child's demands between stages. The child makes insane demands like, oh, it's too bad Wesley's foot didn't get cut off.
Time bonus.
And then you're like, oh, but it did actually. An alligator bit it off. And now he has to, right? So you're getting roguelike, and then you just make it a video game that is the sequel to The Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
I have two strong opinions about how you should remake a Princess Bride movie. If anybody's ever read the Princess Bride book, they'll understand that why the movie deserves a really fancy remake, and it could be good.
Would you get Carrie Elwes back in there somehow?
Yeah, he could be. He'd have to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, I wonder if there could be a time skip at some point, and then they come back, and Carrie Elwes is there, and he says, "Hello."
Hello. Oh, yes. Oh.
Yeah.
They could do it. They could just straight up make it like Shrek.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
but isn't Carrie always like canonically about to die after that movie because they took 50 years off of his life?
Oh, well, we could fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a potion.
There's
Probably.
a potion.
It's always a potion.
There's always a potion, Carl.
All right.
That's one of the roguelike buffs is the potion to remove the life expectancy thing.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I can do my snake review after the break.
Oh, yeah, let's do our snake break. Welcome back.
Do it now? Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it now. Welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time for our snake break. Brandon.
Yeah, okay. My next movie, for those of you who do not recall, this is my segment that was requested where I review all of the 3 movies I got from a package from a guy who sent me 3 snake movies, each with a snake fact card inside of it, unexpectedly. Anyway, next movie, Snake Woman's Curse. This is directed by Nobuo Nakagawa, who's best known for his movie Jigoku. This is basically about an evil landlord and his evil family who entrap a poor working group of people and harass them to death or kill them either way. This causes the evil landlord's family to have visions of the dead family and also just generally of snakes. There's some nice shots and there's some nice lighting work, but it's really slow and so slow, in fact, that I've found myself spending most of the time wishing for the Snake Woman appear to take revenge and end the movie. It takes forever for there to actually be a Snake Woman, and even then she's really just a hallucination for the most part. And most of the trouble the evil family encounters is just snakes being dropped from above camera, just like around them, and then disappear when they look again. All the major effects work and stuff is in the last 10 minutes, and there's really not enough bite to it. And it just makes you kind of realize that Jigoku, my opinion, people love the themes or whatever of that movie, but to me it was mostly about the effects, and when this guy doesn't have the effects, it's not quite there. So verdict, skip it.
Okay,
now,
give us that fact.
Fact, Burmese python is the one that got packed with this DVD. Common throughout most of Asia, they often exceed lengths of 6 meters, 20 feet, which, by the way, I will add, was also mentioned in the Cobra one from last time. They rarely venture above ground, which I don't believe to be true. But that's what we got. That's
Who would put it on a snake fact card if it wasn't true?
As we said, snakes, they're amorphous beasts. So there you go. That's number 2.
All right.
We got one more left.
We got one more left. We'll find out next episode. Our next question is from Dilson, who asks, are there any video game cover bands you actually like?
Cover bands? Well, I certainly at the time enjoyed The Advantage. They were sloppier than the mini bosses, but they had Zach from Hella. That dude's pretty good at drums and other instruments. He's in that other thing now.
I think we both appreciated them for being sloppier than the mini bosses. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't kept up since those days.
No. Yeah. I mean, I have seen that they exist. I was at a metal show, and one of the openers, he was in a different band that did video game covers, and he was trying to get me hyped up about it. And I was like, oh yeah, man, sounds cool. And then I didn't go. So I think it's like not really, I may not have it in me to be excited about, because you can't really, once you get out of the 16-bit era, it's
slim pickings.
Yeah, it doesn't really work the same way.
Most of the video game cover bands that I've heard in my life were playing live, small sets, just kind of standing around PAX.
Yeah.
Where I feel like there was this band that had some horns that was always playing Chemical Plant Zone from Sonic 2 at every PAX I ever went to.
Oh, that's a shame because you're supposed to use a car horn.
Oh, yeah.
Honk, honk.
Yeah, God, that's the ultimate honking. I mean, I think it's been long enough, I can confess, to just being a little bit of a jerk about video game covers. I think some overclocked remix stuff is fun, but I've never specifically gone to see a band that's covering video game music. I did go to Carnegie Hall to watch Final Fantasy 16 music be played, but that was because I had been invited by my friend, and I dared not say no. But is that a video game cover band?
Kind of.
I think that counts.
An orchestra is a band of sorts.
What I prefer is like not the covering of specific songs, but when you get like those Soundshock collections published by Ubictune, where they are just using FM synthesis to make music that could not have appeared on the Genesis, but you might imagine that they could. It sort of sounds like you remember it, even though it's not real, but it's all original music. That's more of a laudable position, I would say.
So I'll say for me, I couldn't name you any cover bands past the era when it was new and unique, aka the Advantage and the Mini Bosses, that era. But in an environment like being at MagFest, it's fun to just wander around and dip your toe into a room where a cover band's playing and just kind of go, I know that song, and just watch some live music, just covers of stuff you know. So I still enjoy the occasional performance that I stumble into, but I don't believe that I will go seeking video game cover bands at this point in my life.
Every time I ever heard that band playing Chemical Plant Zone at PAX, which was every PAX I ever went to, I think it was the same band playing Chemical Plant Zone more than once per day. Every time I ever heard it, I was like, heck yeah, dude. As I walked by, I was like,
you don't need more than that one.
I was like, oh, these guys are pretty good. I'm thinking just variations on that. These guys are pretty good thought just every single time. But I was always, on my way to do something. But I've just kind of preferred music. Big Sonic the Hedgehog fan, big Masato Nakamura fan. But more importantly, I'm a big fan of RAH Band, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Ramu, Prism, Momoko Kikuchi. Right. And did I get there through video games? That's none of your business. Right. How dare you god darn ask me that? Right. But it's just like I actually have a Spotify playlist I made for somebody called Sonic the Hedgehog Act Zero.
I want that playlist.
That's a whole bunch of songs that just usher you into with the final track is Anata ni Aitakute by Dreams Come True.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to drop a link to that.
No other dreams come true on the playlist. It's a private playlist. I will share it with Alex Jaffe.
Thank you,
but not anybody else listening to this. You got to subscribe to the Platinum $1,000 a month tier.
Nice. Yeah, that's the one where you get to watch us do this show live.
The $1,000 Platinum the tiers all goes directly to me, by the way. So that I can buy steel case chairs.
It took me a minute to find the name of a band that I enjoyed recently at a party. Super Soul Bros. So
Super Soul Bros. Got one in right under
shout
the wire.
Them out. So shout out at least one working band that could use some support if you're into that thing. Super Soul Bros.
Sleepynice asks, in the spirit of Metroidvania, what portmanteaus can you make from two game titles to codify other microgenres?
Well, we all know the definition of the suffix vania means locked doors.
Right.
So, I mean, we could use that one, I suppose. Like Jumpyvania.
Residentvania.
Talkavania.
Yeah, you could probably...
can we invent a genre that doesn't exist?
I think you can, yes.
Yeah, you could certainly append rogue to things.
I doubt it at this point.
Here's what I'm going to say. I think some people should try. You should try to put souls onto something else.
Ooh.
Instead of just making more souls. It's fine to make souls likes. Go ahead. But what if you have something else with the souls, right? What if you just have something else and then you... Because there is, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into this, but there is kind of a thing in the Souls games that makes them pretty good, that you could work that into something else.
Okay, so that's one of our ingredients. What's our second ingredient?
I guess this isn't a portmanteau, it's two words, but I wish that Puzzle Fighter had become a word, like a term for competitive versus fighting games instead of just a Street Fighter. A Capcom specific game. I mean, that would have been nice, but it's not a portmanteau, so we gotta get like a Questlevania or something going.
Questlevania.
Okay, so it's combination of words, right? That's
combination of words.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're either describing an existing genre or inventing a new one.
Right.
Well, I like jumping and talking.
Yeah.
Jockeying.
I would call any one of those top-down games, those top-down video games that purport to be Metroidvanias. I believe a Metroidvania has to be side-scrolling. Maybe that makes me a psycho, but I think if you have a top-down Metroidvania, you should call it a Zeldavania.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That seems right. The walk and talk games, Frank? Or jump and talk?
Jump and talk. I mean, walking is implied by jumping, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ultimate jumping game is Mario. I think we can all agree on that. What is the quintessential talking game?
Oh, man, I don't know.
Well, Tokimeki Memorial.
Okay. Yeah, Mario.
A Mario Meki.
A Marmorial.
A Meki Panic. I have a great idea for a game. Yakuza games, the original, the Yakuzas that aren't turn-based, which is a funny thing to have to say now because there's more than one turn-based Yakuza game, and they're called Like a Dragons now. They're just JRPGs, right? They're just JRPGs, but they're also literally, they are what happened to Streets of Rage. Right? We can all agree on this. They are what happened to the Sega, Capcom, Konami storied tradition of arcade brawler, but they're also RPGs. They are brawl-playing games or brawl PGs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. Right. They're brawl PGs. That's what you can call them. And that's a genre that we need to be made now that it has a name.
Yeah, now that Yakuza has passed the torch.
Yeah, y'all can start making games now. We're preemptively inventing a genre name for a game that occupies a genre by itself. Brawl PGs.
Yeah.
It's a horrible, horrible name, but if anybody's into it, you can make more of them now. Yeah. You can do it.
You've got the name.
You got a
That's
genre
the point
name.
here.
Brawl PGs, dude. Brawl playing games.
All right, we have half of one with souls. What other thing do we want to append onto souls that would make sense?
I mean, it's weird because souls.
That's a real problem.
Yeah, it like what do you want? Like you could have a. What else do you want out of a Souls game that you're not getting? I guess is the question. Like which thing needs to attach to it? Like there aren't a lot of shooter Souls likes, you know. But I don't know if you could really make one.
There's millions of people who want an easy mode, and there's thousands of people who think Elden Ring being open world is bad.
The portmanteau part is what.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that I have any kind of answer here. I'm just thinking there could be something. Somebody could make something, please.
Yeah, it does.
Think about it.
It does seem like a zone.
All right, next question. Well,
platforming. There you go. There you go. I want platforming. A jump.
And you could call it splatforming. Souls platforming.
Jump Souls.
It sounds terrible.
Here's one from Connor. What video game manual is the exemplar of what all video game manuals should be?
Oh my.
Baby Boy's bumping bingo for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I've read a video game manual since the literal 1990s, so I don't know.
Yeah, I guess at this point it would have to be one that has some fun stuff in it. Give me some background information on the video game that is enticing to me.
Well, I think the question is not necessarily saying you've got to write this manual for the modern era, right?
No, it's which existing one is the best. But I'm just trying to throw out which things would actually entice me.
Let's lay out some criterias here. Number one, first page, absolutely has to thank you for purchasing the game.
Yeah. Also, the last page, my opinion, needs to show you ways in which you should not destroy the object with a happy little guy that's very sad when he gets like a pencil stuck through him or whatever.
Right, or like he's being dipped in water.
And it's like acid.
Yeah. There has to be like 12 pages that are blank in the back for notes. Yeah.
Notes.
It has to be at least 48 pages in length. The controls part needs to have little cartoon illustrations showing all of the motions you can do.
It's true.
The instructions for the controls should be accurate.
Yes.
They should actually reflect the video game.
I like it. I like to have a little index in there, so even though I almost never really look at it, but so I know where everything could be.
I really like in a game with fairly abstract art, like a pixel art game, when there are line drawings in the manual.
Yeah.
That show you what they actually look like.
And little Chibis versions of them as well, I also enjoy.
Oh, those are in the margins, but then
in the margins,
like in the sort of bestiary part, it's like the nice line drawings. Yeah,
I think there has to be a long story description at the beginning as well.
Sure. about how the Demon King was killed 100 years ago.
They have to be like
now
4 pages, but they're fully illustrated.
he's back.
I'm thinking the original Legend of Zelda manual is probably like the exact thing I'm describing.
I think that might be one of the best ones.
I wasn't trying to joke and about like build up to revealing the Legend of Zelda manual. I'm just realizing that's basically it. It's got illustrations. It has the cool, weird sculpture diorama of the map. It has illustrations. It has a story description written as like prose. It thanks you for playing the game. It's got a gold cover. Or thanks you for buying the game. It's got a gold cover. It's got legal information on the back. It's got some pages for notes. It's got like an item list. I feel like an item list is fun to have.
I wish I could think of a specific one. There are a lot of PC Engine games that I enjoy that have like a little interview with the director, and then the last page shows like a telephone card or a cardigan that you could purchase if you sent in some things. It just has like a lot of tiny little tasties in there, little extra bits. I like those. They bring me tiny joy sparks, but I can't think of a specific one, unfortunately.
I think it's either original Zelda or it's Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo for me. I remember feeling like Final Fantasy, where Chrono Trigger had like a far worse instruction manual than Final Fantasy III did. And I remember feeling like instruction manuals were endangered, even like while reading the Chrono Trigger manual, because the god-darn manual for Final Fantasy III for Super Nintendo was so rich, and it was filled with Yoshitaka Amano art, but it didn't have cool illustrations of the darn characters, which is what you want, you know? You want cool illustrations showing your guy doing your actions.
So Zelda.
I think I'm fine with it. I think the original Zelda.
It really is that anime cutscene art that does it for me on that one.
Super Mario 3 is good. Oh, another thing I love is little hot glue or clay models of the characters, like in Secret of Mana or in Earthbound or whatever. I like those.
Yeah, they're good.
And if it comes with a map, I'm considering the map in the Zelda manual, or the map in Zelda part of the manual. I'm considering it.
Yeah, growing up as a kid, we would usually get new video games on Friday, which was a problem because just a couple hours after we got it, Sabbath rules would set in. So we couldn't actually play the game until Saturday night. So I would spend just 25 hours looking at the instruction manual and reading that over and over again. And the most enjoyable experience for me was the one for Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which has a lot of those qualities you were talking about the original Zelda having, the cartoon art, the very evocative style.
I've been over this before. Okay, so I'm looking at the Zelda manual now, and it's so good. It's like so hilariously like stupidly good. But I've talked about this experience, and I used to get games at a particular store in Pennsylvania that had derangedly cheap video games while we were visiting relatives in Pennsylvania, and I would just have to read the manual for the duration of like the whole trip. Man, this Zelda manual is so good. If you disagree about original Legend of Zelda manual, listener, check it out. Just look it up. Look it up, man.
Next question is from Winking Face, who asks, what is the Robert Downey Jr. agreeing to return to the MCU as Doctor Doom of video games?
Oh, man. That sure is a thing, huh?
Yeah, I feel like it's any of those games where they're like, well, it's probably
Mighty Number 9 Kickstarter.
Yeah, I was gonna say something with like Suda 51 or something.
What I've already forgotten what it was called, like the Calypso Project. What was that game called? Where they got the Dead Space guy back.
Callisto Project.
Protocol.
Callisto Protocol.
There it is. Anyway, it was a game where they were like, we got the guy, but then you play the game and you're like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have, because it was so.
Well, that's Mighty Number 9 for sure.
Yeah, so I think it's in that genre.
Mighty Number 9 was definitely, you kids like Mega Man, don't you?
Okay, it's possible though that we haven't seen the product, so it's possible that actually Robert Downey Jr. is Doom. I feel like I'll at least enjoy his performance.
Yeah, I want to watch it. I'm an idiot. I'm a shrieking, massive psycho idiot.
It's more the weirdness of it, I think, is how I would interpret.
I don't think it's the weirdness. I think it's the pathetic pandering. It's like, oh no, our franchise is in trouble. We got to hire back Robert Downey Jr. We got to get back to a director that did some of the ones you liked. We got it. So they're like trying to bring back the things.
Well, to be
like,
fair,
maybe we can do it again.
The Russo brothers aren't the directors that did some of the ones you like. They're the directors who made the biggest money making movies of all time very consistently, like in a row, tons and tons and tons of them. I'm not a fan here. I think they could look into hiring a colorist to make their stuff not look like you got 4 goddarn black mist filters on your camera. They could look into hiring somebody who knows how to make something look good, but they very reliably get stuff done. I think their return is as big a deal, a slightly smaller deal.
I think it's part of it, and I think the idea behind it is the return to what you fans like, right? Like, you guys like this, right? Like, this is because they're nervous. They're nervous with these superhero movies now because they're costing as much as they ever did, and they're not making as much as they ever did.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's like if Sonic returned to 2D and it was bad, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
something like that.
Sonic 4.
To make sure everyone knows exactly when we're recording this, they actually are making more money than they've ever made before as of right now.
With the Wolverine Deadpool?
Yeah, because they released the one that is exactly what people want, and it's killing people. People are dying in the theater. But also, it's kind of a complex thing because Robert Downey Jr. did go win an Oscar, right?
Yeah.
He died as Iron Man. Spoilers for that movie that came out 6 years ago. He died. Iron Man dies. Tony Stark dies. He perishes. He passes away. He makes a noble sacrifice to save the universe, the whole universe,
Which famously in comic books is permanent. So he's
Right.
not
Yeah,
course.
it never changes.
Yeah.
Superman, dead.
So he's straight up dead. And then he went and won an Oscar for a performance that was
not Iron Man.
not as Iron Man.
Yeah.
He went and won
Not
an
the
Oscar.
character Iron Man, but the actor. Yeah.
He went and won an Oscar for a role that was very, very, very much not Iron Man, right? And then he starred in a Park Chan-wook directed series, The Sympathizer, as 5-6 different characters. And now he's going to be Dr. Doom, who in the Marvel universe occasionally is Tony Stark. Did you know this?
Mm-hmm.
Did you all know this?
I didn't.
Yes. Okay.
I didn't know this, but somehow inherently I knew that stuff like that would happen.
Did you, in fact, watch the new Deadpool movie, Frank?
I did.
Okay.
During Comic-Con, I texted my friend Ian Ferguson, who I was staying with before I went, and I was like, hey, let's do the most Comic-Con thing possible and watch this stupid movie. And that's what we did. We really leaned into it.
That's pretty good. I went to see it as well. I'm not going to spoil Deadpool and the Wolverine. That's our next episode. Me and Frank will talk about Deadpool for an hour.
Sure.
Which
will be like weeks after it came out. Yeah.
That movie is blasted with spoilers and such, but they did enough stuff where I heard the news about Robert Downey Jr. that morning before going to see it, and then while watching the Deadpool Wolverine movie, I was like, oh, I guess they're gonna do this, and I'm gonna go watch it because I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot, and I'm going to go watch goddarn Tony Stark come back as Dr. Doom, and they're going to make it make sense. How does that work in a video game, though? What's the video game equivalent of that?
Is it, I mean, like, it's hard for me to get past the Kickstarter thing, like Shenmue 3 or something.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not, that wasn't to revitalize a company, right? It was like an individual is attempting. So this is more like, I mean, I think Sonic 4 is a reasonable answer, but not quite big enough.
Sonic 4,
something like that.
I think this RDJ Dr. Doom thing's going to be resoundingly successful with like the whole, like the core of the demographic, if this Wolverine thing is any indication. So we might have to dip into hypotheticals here.
Okay.
Like, what if Nintendo brings out Shigeru Miyamoto and says Shigeru Miyamoto's directing?
That's the first thing I thought.
The next Mario.
It's a new Mario directed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that might be it,
it would be like a Hayao Miyazaki coming out of retirement to make one more movie. Sort of
keeps doing.
Well, except only the diehards know that he doesn't direct them.
Well, yeah, direct, produce, design. Like, he's the creative guy.
But your average, that like the 99% of their revenue comes from people who have no idea.
That is true. They just play Mario. It's Mario Kart 8, basically. It's Mario Kart 8.
Okay. Speaking of which, this is our last question from Spencergifts, who asks, who is Mario?
Who is Mario?
The answer to this is clear, but I was watching some Olympics a bit ago, and the Italian team was doing some gymnastics. The Italian women, and I kept going, "Is that Princess Peach?" But Princess Peach, I don't think she's Italian, right? She's not Italian. I think that's the answer.
From the Mushroom
she's not
Kingdom.
Italian at all.
She's from the Mushroom Kingdom.
She's Mushroomian, yeah.
Right, so she's not Italian. The only Italians are Luigi and Mario. Is Wario Italian?
I think Wario
Princess
Italian.
Peach is a used car salesman's daughter from Tennessee, right?
That's fair.
But Wario doesn't "it's a me" or anything. He doesn't like it to spaghetti.
He says, I'm a Wario, I'm a gonna ween.
We know not Wario's provenance.
I guess he does.
Wario
that's
likes
true.
spaghetti.
Does he?
He likes garlic. That's canon.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because garlic is the go-to example of spicy food in Japan. Did you know this? It's like the go-to food when you're talking about something being too spicy. You say garlic. Oh, garlic. Oh, too spicy for me.
I did not know that.
That's interesting.
I think when you boil it down, who's Mario? He's the mustache, I think. You take away the mustache and he's not there anymore.
Who's Mario? He's the man. That's it.
Yeah.
When you need a job done, call that goddamn guy.
But also when they flattened out his butt, I was like, that's not Mario anymore. So maybe there's some aspect there. Maybe there's more than just the mustache.
No, he wasn't hopping. He wasn't a professional jumping guy yet. He didn't have his John Carter of Mars gravity realization at that point in the film. He had just reached.
That's why his buttocks weren't there yet. He hadn't gluted it up.
Yeah. If anybody listening to this requires larger buttocks, kettlebell swings, gorilla jumps. You get yourself a goddamn 43-pound kettlebell. That's the standard weight. Swing that. That'll build your butt hardcore.
So Mario's a fellow with a strong butt.
Yeah, because of jumping.
Yeah.
He's a hard butt having guy, and he's the man.
That's all you got to know.
You got to hang a shelf. You got to plunge a toilet. You got to snake a drain. You got to drive a truck. You
got to referee a boxing match.
You got to drain a snake too.
You got to throw pills.
Drain a snake, snake a drain, whichever one. Yeah, right.
But I guess Mario and Dr. Mario are not the same guy, really.
I've heard this theory.
They're kind of like Earth 2.
Dr. Mario is a Wario level entity, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard the theory that Dr. Mario is the third successful Mario brother.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You can say that certainly from a licensing perspective, it was a separate license.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Which Mario teaches us typing? It feels like it should have been Dr. Mario.
No, that's
not bootleg Mario.
No, that's real Mario.
Mario teaches typing is
he's the same Mario who is missing.
Secretary Mario.
Yeah, he taught typing and went missing because of that.
You're right. We never saw him again.
Yeah.
Too much typing.
We ought to move on, dude.
All right, fine. Lightning
I'll
round.
die if I continue this.
Here's our lightning round. Our lightning round is from Nick, who simply says, name 10 horror games not made by a Japanese developer.
Shooby dooby double looby.
Okay.
Dead Space.
That
Dead Space. Dead
Hill.
Space 2. Dead Space 3. Backbone. Silent Hill.
The Suffering.
Bloober Team. Silent Hill. The Suffering.
The Thing. Fear.
Manhunt.
Fear
Manhunt
2.
2.
Condemned.
Yeah.
I think we already got 10, but we
I'm at 5. Dead Space, The Thing, Fear, Manhunt, and Condemned. I'm not
Dead Space 2.
counting-
Dead Space 3.
I'm not counting those.
Did you get Fear in you got Fear in there?
Halloween on the Atari 2600.
I'll take it. That's 6.
The Thing for PS2.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Brandon already said, The Thing.
Wait, did you? Oh, whatever. Who cares? Smoke a blunt. Like, I don't know.
Cursed Mountain.
Smoke a blunt. Roll it twice.
Curse Mountain. That's 7.
Yep, that's on the Wii.
Crow Country.
Uh-huh.
Crow Country, yeah.
Yeah, Crow Country.
Yeah, Crow Country. That's 8.
That's a hot one. Alone in the Dark, LOL.
Okay.
That technically counts.
Yeah.
Alan Wake.
It's like
I
technically
think
the
Alan
first
Wake,
3D.
you got 10.
Yeah, and Alan Wake. That's 10.
did it.
Good job. Anyone got any recommendations?
Oh, wow. That's it? I thought there was going to be a bunch of these.
That was the lightning round.
Decent format for
I
a
got
thing.
some recommendations. Yeah, we could do more of those though in the future. That
I think I should do that. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take that under advisement.
Future.
I'm gonna recommend. I've multiple times recommended that Scavenger's Reign show on here.
Yeah.
If you liked it, And if you didn't watch it, go watch it. I'm just going to recommend that again. But if you did like it, one of the co-creators has a new show pending called Common Side Effects. And there is a preview that you can view on the YouTube and check it out. It looks pretty cool. It's neat and weird. It's got an odd vibe. It's got people with tiny faces. It looks a little funny, but it's really, well, it looks neat. I looked at it and I was like, I'll watch that at the end of it. So check it out.
Yeah, I don't have anything this
You don't have anything? Well, I have one recommendation, and it's a pretty simple one. So I'm 45 years old and past the statistical midpoint of my life, and I'm able to look back on decisions I made, and et cetera, et cetera. And I've got to say, when I was a young fellow, a healthy young fellow, a strapping fellow with six-pack abs and weird hair, all I wanted in life was to drink cappuccinos with many, many divorced women. But I think if you're wondering for what to do, and you need a recalibration of your dreams, consider, young fellow, purchasing a Ford E350 Super Duty van. They're large, they're spacious, they're beautiful. Purchase one of those, and then have you heard of the Upper West Side, New York, Manhattan? Just come on up and live near there, figure out where to park it, and then if you want to be my friend and help me move stuff around very frequently. And you're if I could do it all over again, I would have bought a Ford E350 Super Duty van instead of moving halfway around the world to drink cappuccinos with divorced women.
So your advice is
I would have done it.
One listener to divert their entire life
to help you move stuff.
Well, not one, as many as you can. No, it's not. It's not divert. It's think about it.
Okay.
I think if you were a man with a van,
you'd have a plan.
If you were a man with a van, there's a Peep Show joke about this. If you were a man with a van, you're useful. You're making an impact in your society.
It's true.
You're making an impact in your community. And you're also probably building up a goddamn Rolodex of crazy stories. You know what I tried to do in my 20s? I tried to write crazy stories. You can't write crazy stories in your 20s, you idiot.
Yeah.
You have to get them.
Ain't nothing happened to you.
Yeah. So get a Ford E350 Super Duty van.
I've got some recommendations of my own. I would like to recommend, if you liked this episode, that you please rate and review our show wherever and however you can. Like Key Gray and Dizzy DJ and Mike D'Antoni recently did. Thanks to you, folks.
Mike D'Antoni. 3 first names.
You can also support our show on patreon.com/insert credit. That really helps me out. If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or personal message, you could do that by getting in touch with me at show@insertcredit.com. You could join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or find us on youtube.com/insertcreditshow. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
Episode over!
On April Fool's next year, you should say this show is edited by your mom and with original music by right.
That'll get him.
Yeah.
Yeah.